Okay, guys, just to kind of like recap today, we had a pretty good swing trade here on Roku. Very easy. I think this was the more simple one, right? We talked about this setup a ton with the pullback kind of into your previous lower high zone. We were looking for that gap right here to then act as support. Didn't quite fill, but mitigation was there, right? We kind of had this downtrend line with low volume, right? This was very, very low volume. We had a hammer that then conversely closed at the top of this open here from August 23rd, also the top of that gap, right? And it just felt like it had a good opportunity if CPI came in cool for a nice move. Exactly that, right? We ended up opening right around here, 68. We pulled back a little bit, and then obviously started to make our way back up for a very, very strong candle close on very good volume here. You guys can see volume very good, very high. Bar closed right near the highs, right? This should continue tomorrow, in my opinion, and fill that 72 gap. That's why I held a couple cons, but overall, right, should be about, I mean, at the open, we were already up like 55%. Majority of the gains taken off of there, and then, yeah, just hold one contract to 72 just to see what it can do. No reason to stop out of that one. What else did I have? I had Amazon, if you guys saw, although this was insane. Remember, we ended up opening like right around here, right? So right around this key spot at 180. Now, this was, I don't know, dude, this was crazy, guys, because this ended up breaking down to this spot here, right? We were kind of hovering between this is like Friday, or I'm sorry, Tuesday low. You guys can see there was a clear support here, but we were also trapped within, right, this big 178.38 spot, which was Friday's high, right? So just like kind of trapped in a range. So I went short here. I was going to add on a pop if we needed to. So from our fib levels here, I was going to re-add here and then risk 180. Kind of the same thing that I did last time or yesterday before I stopped out of those weekly contracts. But we ended up failing, and we ended up having a nice little drop from here down to 175.88, $2.52. These went like 30% on October 18th contracts. Really nice move. And then I set my stops break even. Obviously, it broke back up and ended up kind of triggering out the stops as it broke through 177.50. So that was a nice little trade there on like a stat pad. The three contracts that I have on AMD. Sorry, my color's gonna be a little bit off because I was using a white screen for a little bit again. This thing might be toast if PPI comes in clean tomorrow, which honestly I think it does, guys. And this is what sucks, man. Like, I feel like I say this one like once in a blue moon, right? Like where I'll have these theories and these ideas and these awesome trades that I'm kind of lining up, and then something will happen where I just kind of get shaken in my confidence on them, and I'll stop out. And obviously it'll do that exact thing that I'm looking for. And it seems to be the case with semiconductors. Initially we were kind of looking for this to pull back down into this little zone here, and I'll have like a green line now. I'll change it to green. Whether it was the pivot on the monthly here at like 146, or if we took this down a little bit lower to the actual major bounce level at like 142, right? We were expecting some kind of pullback into that and launch pad off of that. Obviously, it went a little bit deeper. But if we pull our fibs, it might have been a 618. It was pretty good. It's pretty damn close, guys. Like right around here. It went a little bit lower. But it's just one of those things where it sold deeper than a level. Although it did hold above this level here, which is our higher low technically, right? So still a good chart. We were in a really tough predicament where we were having lower highs across the board with opportunities for a higher low to catch, but it was pretty much no bids, man. There was nothing there, and it felt like a lot of these charts were starting to fall through. Then obviously JP Morgan kind of liquidates and that thing goes crazy. And a lot of things just kind of shook me, right? Where I felt like, oh man, like these trades it's not time, right? I felt like we had to get one more low. And I'm specifically talking kind of about TSM now. TSM, if you guys remember, I was trading in this box here, right? I was taking calls off of this here at 168 and calls off of the 165. Remember, I took it here back when I was in Vegas, and then it ended up ripping all the way to 175. I didn't take any profits. I was up like 40% or something here. It pulled back. I got ads here on Thursday the 22nd. It ripped the next day, right? Pulled back. I got ads here at 165 again, and then next day, right, we ended up having this kind of consolidation above 168. I took more ads here, and I had like 85 cons. And then this day here, I thought we were good to go. Remember, we had this phantom print as well up to 175. I think that hits. Honestly, I think, dude, I think those things are, I don't know, a blessing from God or something, but I think that is going to hit. This is kind of like your downtrend line here. It's nothing super. I mean, it's a little messed up though because this bar shouldn't be here, so it's technically like right around here. I don't use those too much, but overall, it's a level-to-level trade, right? This is now reclaimed this progression gap. There's a lot of support here, and look how easily that did this today. It really didn't even get phased on its way through 168 to 165. I did say, right, and you guys should know this, second week of each month, we typically have those bullish Vonda charm flows kind of flow in. In the first week of September, what did everybody expect for September? We saw it all over Twitter. I try to stay off Twitter. Everyone was saying, what? The market's bearish during September. I don't think it's any coincidence that we sold the way we did the first week of September to trap a lot of people into the seasonality theory. I still am firm in my belief that this August move was the front run, right? This kind of sell off here in August was the front run for what was supposed to happen in September, to be honest. And then I think this move here, beginning the first week of September, was a fake out. And to kind of just tie this into the scan, right? I mean, I'm just going to do this like I guess two birds, one stone. I think TSM, I think QQQ, I think all these are going to go. I should have never have changed my theory. Dude, I'm so upset, guys. I shouldn't have stopped out of this. Oh, I shouldn't have stopped out. I was down. If you guys saw it too, I was down like 48, 55%. I was down a lot because it's hard to survive a day like this where you have a gap down from the close here at 171 all the way down to 160, basically 168, right? And then it melts all the way in one day, that much, right? So, I mean, if we take it from the close down to, let's just go to the low, right? Because it closed pretty strong. We'll just round it down. I mean, that's a $12 move in one day. That's going to kill any options contract. And then remember, we climbed up and had this like bear flag where we ended up now rejecting the bottom of the progression gap. And instead of having like a small sell, we had another big day, dude. It was another 5% day, guys. And that was just demoralizing. And I didn't want to like have the Discord think I was averaging down and being desperate because I already had 80 cons. I was like 40 grand deep in this. But like, if we look at this, and I remember going back, I went back and looked at my scan a couple days ago. This was the level that I thought the market would go to. It was the old progression gap here, which really didn't test, right? We didn't get like a structural development there. All it really did is kind of pull back on the intraday time frame and then go, and then we pull back one more time here on Thursday. But it didn't give you like some kind of pullback into it, right? Now this sold down and obviously tapped 156 to 153. And I just should have added, guys. I really should have. I mean, this lined up so nicely, not only here, but with this old progression gap here, where we saw a lot of pullbacks and development there. It is what it is. I can't fret about it too much, but it was, it's a good sign that it's moving like this through these levels. And I do think that this continues, right? I do think that this pushes to this NWOG from last week. You guys remember when I was trading this here, right, like during the live action of this happening, I knew we'd get some kind of markup to an NWOG. I just didn't think it'd be this deep. But you guys can see, right? Look how easy this moved through this area. This should have been crazy resistance here. The fact that it wasn't is just it's such a bullish sign to me. So long story short, I'm expecting either the NWOG to fill, or if we don't fill, I'm looking just for this to pull back. Once again, the same playbook from back here, whether it holds 168 and goes, or let's say it ends up pulling down a little bit further to 165 and then bases back up, hits 168 and then starts to push out, which I'll expect a 175 rejection again. Maybe it holds this NWOG. I don't know how significant this will be. We'll have to kind of look at the level 2 and just kind of see the reaction on the tape. But that's kind of what I think is going to happen here. And yeah, I mean, there's no reason to like. I just complained to you guys and I vented a little bit, but it is what it is, right? This is going to happen on a lot of trades, and you just got to figure out why it happened and how you could have stayed in that trade. Obviously, I don't condone staying in trades that are going negative 40, negative 50% against you, but you also have to realize that a lot of these trades are swing trades, and that those troughs are expected sometimes, right? Especially if it really doesn't break risk or it comes into a spot that's very valid, right? Although it did break what I thought it would hold, right? If you guys kind of jump back to the weekly, my risk was technically right here. It was technically this 158, 160 spot, and that's why it closed out it. If you guys didn't know, that's why I stopped, right? Because it did technically close under it on the weekly, but it just went a little bit lower, right? And sometimes you have to offer yourself that flexibility. And even if I didn't average it down, because that would have been 100% averaging down, that's a losing trade. And adding into a loser without a level, that would have been very irresponsible. Even if I didn't add into that, this trade would have been, I think it would have been green now. These are at 2.9. My average was 2.7. They went as low as like 1.10 or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, it was tremendous drawdown, but I could have added. Or I could have just sat and waited. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, if I'm being honest. I wanted to just hold on to those contracts until FOMC happened and see what happened with it. But, it is what it is. Hopefully you guys can hear the pain, because this sucked. I didn't need to take that $20,000 loss, but we mitigated it a little bit, right? I mean, and I think now the vision's clear. That's kind of the reason I wanted to just jump on here, because I felt so torn. Like, are these lower highs across the board? AMD, right? Is this a lower high that's now gonna bounce for another lower high and then come and take down this buy side? QQQ, if you guys remember QQQ. Same thing, right? Is this basically a breakdown into the same exact gap that TSM had? Is it going to base and push back up to the top of the progression gap and then make its way back down, right? And maybe go for a new, at least a low underneath this here, right on Friday, this September 6th, and then have a higher low above this mother candle. I think now the vision's kind of clear, right? I think it's pretty clear. I think I think the markup's here. I really do. So, I mean, like, even QQQ, for example, like, just to push up, I think we test, let's actually clear these charts up, because if you guys couldn't tell, man, I was a little fucking depressed. I wasn't really charting or doing anything, because I was like, dude, I fucked up. I feel like I don't have a feel on the market. And I feel good now, because I feel like I was right with my feel on the market. It's just, it just went a little bit deeper than I thought, right? And it's hard to survive some of those gap down days, like I said. So I feel better. But let's get rid of some of this stuff. We'll still keep this swing high here, because that still is important. We'll just keep that marked. But dude, yeah, I mean, like, this looks like it's gonna potentially give us another higher low entry. If we didn't catch this one, I think that we could get a push up somewhere into this general range, right? Whether it's off of 470, 419 or 480, right? Maybe it hits here and flags, breaks, touches 480 bases, and then starts to go, right? We have some kind of a pathway here. I do think that market will get a little bit sticky in this general area here, whatever it does, and then I think we ultimately get a big move up. Or, right, let's say FOMC isn't good. Let's say something bad happens. I could see a situation where we break back down and actually test this 460 spot, right? And then kind of make our way back up like this. And same kind of thing, right? I'm just kind of going based off levels of how this goes, but ultimate target still, dude, it still is this level up here, right? It's this gap right around 493. I think we get a little excess up to 496 to 497, hence the 500 call. Yeah, there's no way to ignore this, and it's just one of those things. You get stopped, you get back in. It's not a big deal. Obviously. I'll probably keep size the same. I probably shouldn't do that, but I had a 40 gram position last time. I'll probably take another 30K on this one if I see everything align. And that's the one thing, if you guys will notice about me, like, I don't really get phased in terms of like losing and kind of like my theories. If anything, I'm always just a little bit early. And I'm still learning that about myself. Like, I just got to slow it down a little bit, because I think I honestly do see things before they happen. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not. But if I see things early, I think I just need to be able to size down so I can hold a little bit longer through these things without having major size, because it just sucks, man. Those 80 cons, if I wasn't that deep, I would have held that. But now that we have a bar like this, which we have very, very good buyers coming in, right? This is a strong candle. We close through really, really key resistance, right? Support becomes resistance at a certain point, and this has an opportunity now to pull back and do the same exact trade it did here. If we can catch this, so let's say we catch it even off of this, right? Let's just say we get the 165 pullback. I mean, do that, guys. That's a $21 move, or roughly 13% on that underlying. This will be a big trade. This will be around 200%. And dude, you guys saw the tape today. The tape was absurd. So I really like TSM still. QQQ. I'm basically going to be doing, guys, what I did before, right? And I don't care if it gets slow. I love you guys, but I do have to do what's best for me, and there's a reason I've been successful and I've done this for so long. It's because I stick with my thesis and my gut. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just it sounds arrogant, but it really isn't, right? You kind of have to have that mentality if you wanna make it in this. Your mentality and your psychology is what really kind of drives you. It's not your charts. It's not anything like that. It's just the ability to survive when you don't have an edge. And when you have an edge and you see something, right, and it doesn't work, you can stop out. But if it comes right back up, you get right back in. You're fearless, right? And I'm pretty much in that same mindset here. So yeah, we'll see what QQQ does in this 474, 480 zone, right? I do think it will reject. We'll just kind of look how big the rejection is. Does it flag off 474? Does it break above 474 and start to have that trajectory to 480? If it hits 480 and rejects, we're going to look for the 474 pullback. If it holds 474, right, we're going to look for a move up to 485, which is this lower high here, right? Or let's say it gets choppy in this 474, 480 spot and you start to get cold feet, right? Maybe just go light, wait for, to see what happens. And if it sells off pretty deep, I think we can get a retest here of now this, right? This little pocket here. Sorry, let's go here. Right back here, right? Like I said, like I have it drawn out here. These are all higher lows. And then I'm sure everyone on FinTwit will have this drawn out or some bullshit. I don't know, some kind of higher low trend line like that, right? I mean, obviously that would get stopped out if it pulls there, but that's still technically a higher low, which is why I don't really use trend lines, right? So if we have this here, and I'm just speculating, right? I'm speculating, but the trend line would break, but this is still a higher low, right? And that's kind of what I think could happen if this level fails. Just play a little bit safer. And you got to think too, man. If you can't get a discounted entry, like I would rather, and I'm kind of starting to become more aware of this with pricing. If something is priced, like in the 3.5s, 3 point, whatever in consolidation, because if you guys remember TSM, right? TSM was priced in this general area here, like 3.5 to 4, right? I would rather almost miss out on this, right? Because the fact that it pulled all the way down to an actually decent buy zone with a gap, a progression gap, you had your, a clear higher low against this mother candle here. This was that August 5th candle, right? These contracts went to $100. I'd rather pay $100 and miss, this $300 entry just to capture like 10 points. I'd rather wait for this, right? Because now this is $100 and the risk to reward is just so much better. The contract price is way more lucrative. You're truly getting a discount, and I got to get better at that and not overpaying for stuff. So just like a personal thing for me, and I like kind of just tying that into QQQ. I'm thinking about maybe doing that with QQQ, right? Kind of just having that light size. I still have that contract, by the way, on Qs, guys. I really haven't done anything with that. But seeing how it reacts up here, if it does do this 474, 480 base, right, somewhere in this general range, probably just taking 5 cons. Like I don't have to stress my my account to try to capture this move because I feel like I missed it. Right, there's still an opportunity for a higher low here, and I'm sure contracts for that 500C, right, will be absurd if we get to this 480 level, right, this 474, 480. Contracts are going to be like $600, $700, $800. I don't want to be paying that. Like just from a pricing perspective, I'd rather let this do whatever it needs to do, pull down into this 460 spot, give me a tangible higher low, right? Which you got to think too. Like my brain's already thinking about this. This is the bottom of that progression gap, and this would be the top of it right here, right? From close to open. Or wait, hold on. Yeah, yeah. Close to open. This should be right here. Anyways, but yeah, that should be like in that general range, right? Should be in that general range right around 450 for 459 to 460. And then yeah, that'd be like kind of like your third higher low, and then we can look for this to have that trajectory back up. But yeah, so what else? I don't know what else I want to really talk about. I mean Roku. I already went over that, didn't I? Yeah, Roku. Oh yeah. I'm kind of all over the place now, guys. I'm brainstorming. I have like my motivation back, and you guys should know this too. Like motivation comes and goes. It's important just to have consistency, and I feel like I've been really consistent. But then I felt like my trading system completely fell apart, and like I was like, "Fuck, dude, do I want to switch?" Like, and that's normal, right? You don't. I mean, you can't switch away from volume and price. If there just isn't volume and price aligning, you don't trade. You know, and that's why I got boring for so long, and then just yeah, things kind of fell apart with TSM. But oh yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Nike, right? Let's talk about Nike for a second. This chart looks good. Just basically, I don't know why my color is like that. I was trying to trade on my phone today a little bit. I got busy. But yeah, basic pullback into the daily gap was technically here, right? Remember I mentioned that there was this more recent gap here, but we really didn't see any buyers step in off of that, so I just waited for the actual retest of the gap back here. We saw some good buying come off 77.13, and very simply put, I ended up jumping in right. I think it was like right here, right? I started to see this kind of flag and pull back against the 77.13, and as we broke through, I just entered those calls, and we had a pretty good move up towards the highs. I finished at like 12 to 15% up on these. No point of trimming that, in my humble opinion. I think there's an opportunity for this to trade up into this resistance here, which is I would say roughly midway through that gap, right? Outlier move would be a move to 93.77, so that's a possibility. But earnings is coming up here right around October 1st, so I'm not going to be too heavy into this one. I'll probably take some profits as we lead to 85 and as that time starts to dwindle down. What else? What else? We had one more thing too. Oh yeah, Zoom. Like the chart. Just a simple one. Pretty light on this one as well because I do plan on swinging this one. But yeah, just a general range. I think that this comes back up towards this this high, right? You guys can obviously notably see the high here. That high was a result of this gap being filled from 71.91. And yeah, just a simple pullback, right? This was so simple. If I just kind of clean this up a little bit here, I mean, you could take it from here to here. It doesn't really matter exactly where it's at, as long as you kind of notated this, and if you can spot this, that's some bonus points. But if you go to the weekly chart, right? It's pretty simple. This looks like a jump the creek from a Wyckoff accumulation. Dude, this chart's pretty beautiful in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, you would look for a new high on this as well. But like, just jumped out to the monthly, right? You guys can see pretty easy pullback there. Jumped out to the weekly, right? That's kind of like your lower high in that range. The fact that it broke out on this high of volume, right? And then it's starting to pull back on that diverging volume. Looks pretty damn good, right? And you guys can see, right, like just the accumulations that have happened prior to these markups that come from earnings. And these have typically sold off, right? But they haven't had a level to really base like this, okay? So it's a little bit different in how I think this could play out. But risk is for me, like I said, is right around 65. If it breaks under that, I'll close out. But I think that this can get a nice push back up, right? And very simply put too, like we look at the EMA cross here as well. We haven't really had that in this downtrending kind of previous months here, but that's besides the point. I don't pay attention to that too much. Just nice little confluence there. But yeah, this looks pretty good. So I just took a couple cons there. I'll just hold these until 71, 71.91 or 70, just some kind of pop, right? Something to make it worthwhile to try to capture that 9 to 10% move there. But that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, I'm gonna stick with my guns, dude. I know I said this last time, and dude, you guys gotta realize too, with TSM, I'm giving myself a hard time, but realistically, when I caught it here, this went 40%. When it pulled back and I added again, right, this went like 25, 20%. When it pulled back to this here again and I took more ads, and then we had this big move kind of up. Remember, this didn't technically happen, but it did go up pretty high. I think it went to like 174 or something like that. That was like 25%, 30%. I've been up multiple times, 3 or 4 times on this trade. The fact that it just failed, that's the part that hurt. Because I did take a big loss on that. But you know, if this does what I think it can do, I think, you know, even small size could do very well. I said 200% on that. So I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for, to try to yield the full amount on that. And it's pretty much the same exact thing, right? Like if my entry is here, which remember my entry isn't there yet. Oh yeah, I did take entry here. I was thinking about the 165. But this is kind of what I'm looking at. Obviously, I wouldn't stop out at 165, but just kind of giving you guys like a rough idea. I mean, that's a really good trade. That's a really, really good trade with some really good risk on that as well. One other thing too is like maybe MU. MU looks pretty good. Um, I don't know. We'll have to see, right? I mean, if we just take a look at SMH as a whole, okay, it's all kind of structured the same, where we have this here, and I'm just using the daily wicks here, so bear with me for just a second here. But I'm just using this, and it looks very similar to QQQ, where I think if we can get some kind of pullback here, just to hold either the top or the bottom, we can start to build out. I mean, dude, I think this has so much potential, like to 254, obviously then to make its way back up to 264 to 270. This would be, dude, this chart could potentially go crazy. And there's just so many individual names to take advantage of. AMD, I'm just a little bit worrisome. Obviously, it is breaking that downtrend there, but it does have to get through this like redistribution 155 before I feel comfortable with this one. Yes, I know it broke the downtrend, but I have to see it do this. Right, whatever, if it puts in a low and then a higher low against the top of that, I have to see it do that, and then I'll be a bull on this again. We'll see how PPI goes tomorrow. Who knows? Those three cons could pay. If not, I'll just stop out of them tomorrow. But AMD needs a little bit more time to brew, right? So that's still kind of on watch. But MU could be one. MU is still the same thing as it was before. Nothing has really changed. I haven't even changed the colors on this, but it'd have to get back above the supply zone. So it does have some room to do what, so to work with, but if it can do the same exact kind of structure, I think we could get a move up to this like I would say like 115. I might narrow that down a little bit now just to this lower high at 111. So if it can hold 99.95, right, or just 97, that might be a good opportunity. Just to get long, like right around here, maybe risk a little bit below, or let's just use the level just for time's sake. And this is not a bad trade, right? It's a pretty good trade here. Be a 10 point, 11 point move off of that. And I do think this could potentially fill this gap here, 127. I've talked about this a couple times. NVIDIA, congrats. There's a lot of you guys in the Discord that caught this. Good job. I had the same levels, to be honest. Remember, I mean, dude, I should have traded this too. I don't know what I was doing. I was so afraid of like the semis and tech kind of making a new low, or at least kind of digging down a little bit deeper. But this chart was fucking beautiful. Big congrats. I don't know if that phantom print played a role in this. Remember, we did see a phantom print come through. I don't know what day it was. I think it was this one, Wednesday the 4th, where we saw the high actually be a level that it never reached. Right? Remember, it was 113, if I'm not wrong, 113 to like 112. And the fact that this sold down, and what did it do? It did the same exact thing that a lot of these names are doing, right? Where it had a progression gap, and the gap technically filled. It broke out. What did it do? Pulled back, held the top of the progression gap rather than the fill at the bottom, right? And this is technically high or low. And yeah, just kind of marked up, right? I mean, price got pretty tight here, compression, and it slowly started to make bar by bar higher lows. Volume once again was pretty low without signs of sellers, and then you just had that big pop. Yeah, I mean, dude, this chart could be crazy, but it's a little bit iffy for me now. I think you missed the opportunity right here. Trading this continual breakout gets a little bit tricky. So NVIDIA is not really on watch. I do think this could help with any upside movement and overall bullishness on chips. So, Avgo, completely crazy, right? Avgo, I mean, I'm not going to trade it, but if you guys are in this one, you'd kind of just look to see what happens here. Remember, I mean, I guess I should be a little bit more strict with this. I would just look for the fill here, right? Is that right? I use, yeah, okay. I use hollow bars if you guys don't notice. Sometimes I get lost on the close. There we go. So like that's kind of what you would look for. We'll change the color too. I don't know why I'm going over this. I'm hyped, guys. But yeah, you'd be careful of this supply zone for sure, unless you get some kind of like flag off of this. And kind of the same structure, right? I think you can get a new high off of that. Let's look at ARM really quick. Ooh. This is kind of a bullish chart. Not gonna lie. I'm just gonna use this here. I mean, remember, I should technically use that, but dude, okay, this is pretty crazy. This is actually a really nice chart. This could end up doing something like this. whatever it is, right? I mean, it could, let's just make a small little zone. We'll just do these wicks here. If it can kind of base this little top part here, right? You could maybe give it a little bit of leanway to the open back here, because that's obviously where it held. But I would just look for this general area to have an SR flip, right? This whole area kind of have an SR flip. Dude, this could move. You can get 150 by end of this week, or maybe next week. I think you can get some kind of crazy push here where it would have something like this. Right, if it can base that, you'd get that move like that. But no. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm just gonna stick with TSM. I'm gonna stick with TSM. Maybe keep MU on watch. Watch AMD and how that kind of progresses in the QQQ. I'm telling you guys. I'm telling you that those are the ones that are going to carry to the end of the year, in my opinion. Remember, I talk about losses. I mean, it just takes one win to really, really change things. So, I mean, I was down 20 grand off that trade. I did clamber back about 4. I got to like neg 16,000, which I posted to you guys. And then today I made about like 900 bucks or something like that. And yeah, so I mean, I'm down like 15K still off of that kind of like post or mid-August to current day kind of drawdown that I had. So I mean, I can really make that up very quickly with just one chart, and it's so important to limit it, especially as volatility increases too, guys. We have FOMC, we have the elections coming up. The more that you can just focus on one thing and really understand the tape and how the chart's trading and where the structure should be, should it sell off. And not get caught up in looking at so many different charts and just feeling overwhelmed. Especially the more overwhelmed you feel too, like you could be looking at oil and you're like, fuck, well if oil's selling off, this means this, or Bitcoin goes down and banks are going up, or like, you can get so many things into your head that can really throw off your overall market sentiment and freak you out, right? And if you can just focus on one or two things and just really lock in on the chart, they'll pay dividends. And you guys, like, it's so simple. And I know that got so boring. I keep saying that. Like, I understand that this is an alert service and you guys pay to like not only take alerts from what I do, but learn. But like, sometimes the best thing to teach, right, is just patience. And I try to emphasize that. And patience, locking in on a couple charts, especially when things get volatile and things get very difficult. A lot of people have been priced out recently, guys, if you haven't noticed. Like, not only in this Discord, but there's a lot of people that I know that run their own Discords, and people on Twitter have been saying it from what I've been seeing. Engagement has died. Why do you think engagement has died? It's because it got really hard. And like people that have been doing this for a long time, right, are struggling as well. They're having conflicting battles in their own head. Volume isn't matching price, right? And trying to appease people is what I'm trying to say. It can have really bad kind of results, right? And I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to, if it's boring, it's just boring, and there's no way around it. And then obviously it doesn't help that if something is boring and then I find a trade, right, and that loses, see, that's, you got to see, right? It can get a little daunting to alert stuff, and especially when I'm not confident. But I just wanted to jump on. I feel confident. I feel good. And it was really, it's rewarding to see, even though I don't have a position in these. I mean, I just started this one at TSM, but even though I don't have a position that resulted in the rally off of the lows here, it's good to see that levels are reclaiming that I wasn't wrong, and I'm catching this move still relatively early, right? We're still relatively early. This is in that general range where I had it before, okay? So there's nothing that I feel like I'm missing. I just missed a much better entry, I will say that. Like I said, these contracts went to like $100. November's went down to like $200. So I'm definitely missing that, but it's okay. As long as the chart now has a buyer in there, we're starting to see good volume here and some kind of consolidation. Next test, like I said, would be another absorption of 175, and then ideally we get that breach of 175, and then I think we're good to go. So, all right, this has been a long video. This is like 30 minutes of me just ranting, combining not only like the scan, but also combining like kind of just, I guess, some market talk and venting and trade recaps, yada yada yada. So thanks for bearing with me. But yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see how FOMC ends up, kind of creating either a pathway or giving us a higher low. Because there's still, we don't know, right? We really don't know. We can't talk about like the market's going to go crazy once they announce, because they are going to cut rates, right? But there's no way to really tell. But I'm willing to, if it does sell, I'm willing to kind of jump on the fire and buy that higher low. I'm specifically talking about QQQ here. But we'll have to see what ends up happening. So, all right, I'm going to conclude it there before this gets too long and nobody watches. So, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody kind of sticking by me during that TSM loss, that whole thing that happened with my girlfriend, because it all happened all at one time, and it was a lot to kind of handle and kind of go through. So, appreciate that. Appreciate you guys sticking through. Um, Low confidence issues during this too. Like I have no issue admitting that. Like I'm human. I think we all are. Trading does get hard, even for people that you kind of look up to, or even people like. And it's good to see, right? There's people that I feel like aren't doing so good that can recognize it as well, and like that's a development that is so crucial in your trading. So it's good to see a lot of people like really building that resume of like trading skills that should be there, you know, forever, right? If you can master this during the hard times, it's always going to be with you. So it's good to see people that are not so experienced gaining that experience, people that are experienced knowing kind of like when to take the foot off the gas. And if you guys have been struggling, it's okay. I mean, a lot of people have been struggling, but it's like I said, man, the cash is king. And we're trading during pretty unprecedented times. Like you hear it all the time in the news, and it's not like an exaggeration. Like this feels like 2022, just bullish side, but it's like it's also it doesn't feel like that at the same time, right? It doesn't feel like we're bullish. It feels like at any moment we can crash, and that's just all in your head, right? I feel like it's just genuinely all in our head. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys once again. I will see you guys tomorrow, bright and early. We'll see what PPI brings for us. I got a nice lotto on the books with SPY calls just to see if we can push 560. Right, I do think that we could get a move up into this NWOG here. So remember I said on the hourly, if you guys remember, if we broke through this, I would take calls. So we did test it a little bit here. It may have took them prematurely. I only took 5, but through this 554.87, I think we can move into this NWOG here pretty quickly, which is 560 to 563. So I did lotto some. Probably plan on holding those for the next 2 days, right, until Friday. But yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Appreciate you. See you guys.